first, let's look at some of the bushes that I've bought over the years, like this one and this one. And they look pretty good. Yeah, they look fine. I've been happy with them, but they are very expensive. Now let's look at some of the ones I've very recently made using the process I'm about to show you. Can you spot it? It's right there, and here, and here. Yeah, I think they look great. They look like some kind of a bush. I don't know what kind exactly. I haven't gotten to that stage yet where I'm able to make them look like a specific bush, but I think they look pretty good. And I think most layouts would be fine with something along those lines on them. So let me show you how I'm making these. I've spent a lot of money over the years buying bushes for my layout that look okay in the foreground. Some bushes, they don't look, that you buy anyway, they don't really look good in the foreground. They're okay, if they're back somewhere behind something else, they look fine. But to buy a decent foreground bush, they're expensive. Well, there has to be a better way. I use cheap restaurant supply store wax paper to make it easier to separate the bush from the paper after I've made it. This is $5 worth of hemp or Manila Rope from my local big box home store. What we need to do is cut off some sections of this. It doesn't matter how long they are, because we're going to control the length in a separate process. You can make them shorter, but they're a little harder to manage. Okay, so we've got our little pieces here. To get a good distribution of lengths, I have found spreading a bush-destined group out like this then using a straight edge at an angle to hold them down works well. Once spread out, cut them all along the straight edge with a sharp blade. This way I can cut them into various lengths quickly and easily. The angle cut gives you a distribution of lengths of the fiber, small to large, so they're not all the same length. And I want the base to be all the same, to stop in all the same place. So I'm going to cut them off. Now, I'm going to take my hot glue gun, put a blob down, and then wiggle these in there to make sure that all the fibers are in contact with. And it's best if you spread them out a little bit. Not to where they're laying down, but if you spread them out a little bit at this stage, before the hot glue sets up, it's a little better than trying to spread them out later because they won't spread out. Let's bring you down where you can see this at a better angle. Doing one more. Push those fibers down into it the best we can. Not all of them will go in. Let it set up a minute. Spread the way you want it. And we can always go in and do some trimming and clipping Shake off the loose fibers. Once they fully set up, we can be pretty aggressive at getting rid of any fibers that are not fully seated in the hot glue. There's 3. Okay, these are probably pretty well set now. Well, that looks pretty good. I'd say we have 3 bushes that are very acceptable, and we can take them to the next step. The next step is to paint them. It's okay if the wax paper comes with it. Let's go paint them. Red, brown. I've created some more sticky surface to place my completed bushes so that the glue can dry. These leaves are Noch, N-O-C-H. They come in a little bag. They look like this. They're expensive, but I've had this bag for quite a while now. I've used it for a variety of things. I also have some other leaves I purchased on Amazon. These are a little big. I would say these are closer to being O scale or G scale. But they did come in several colors. Brown and reddish and green. I'm attracted to the reddish ones, although I don't have any down here. I did mix some brown ones into some of the Noch ones. The next step, I'm using matte medium as my glue. And you don't need to use these expensive leaves like I'm using. You can use ground scatter. You could use a sawdust you've painted. You could do any number of things. In fact, you could always paint the foliage to the color you want after it goes on. Let's grab one of these. If I hold it with some of my longer tweezers. This is an oil brush. It's a brush designed for oil paints. It's a very cheap one. I think it works great for lots of stuff. I like it for doing things like this. These fibers are quite stiff, you see. So we get that distributed on there, and then we give them a dunk. And there they are. Now that did not take very long. And if you were doing a production run, say 20 or 30 at a time, you could definitely knock those out in an hour or less. Which, when you're spending $20 or $30 on ones from Scenic Express that are tall, and the tall ones are hard to find anymore. They don't seem to make many of them. They seem to always be out of stock of the tall ones. Compared with unavailable and expensive, these are cheap, easily made. So I vote for these. I'm glad I've discovered how to make them.